everyone, happy Halloween and welcome to Stitch and Bear Time. My name is Leslie and this is Little Bear, and we're going to continue on with our current Bucilla wall hanging kit called the Haunted House. So let's get started. So as you can see on my left here, this project is practically done. I have yet to put on the pellin and the lining on the back, which is not really lining, I guess it's more just like a back cover. I found this really pretty fabric at Joann's that should match it really well. So I'll probably either do a bonus video or maybe my next video I'll show what I ended up choosing to do for the back. But the front is all completed with the little hangers. And I'm excited to show you guys the rest of this because once I had the house done, it was really all about just making all the little characters and then just quickly attaching them onto the wall hanging. So it went much faster than I thought it was going to. This kit was 127 pieces that I did in about a month, I would say, maybe a month and a week. So I sewed away, all while I was doing some other projects on the side as well for other people and things like that. So yeah, been very busy, but I'm very excited to show you guys the rest of this project. So let's do this. So I had a lot of these little eyes I had to cut out for the wall hanging kit. I did a rough cut because of how small they were, and then I took my little scissors and I cut all the little ink off to make it more exact. From there, I put that on my wall hanging, and you don't applique them all. Again, they're very small. So what you do is you put some French knots where the little eyes, the black part of the eye would be. As you can see, it was so difficult to handle because of how small it was. But I managed it somehow. Let's fast forward through this part, and I'm going to show you the very end when I got all of these eyes on. After getting all these spooky, googly eyes done, I am now working on the spider webs all over the house. And it tells me to just cut them out, applique them on, and then do a back stitch to make them look like spider webs. And there's an overall view when I finished all the little eyes and the cobwebs. And at that time, these two were hanging out with me in my sewing room, just bonding together, and I had to take a picture. So from there, I had to move on to working on the grass/bushes and also the entryway that leads to the front door. And as you can see, there were a lot of sequins I had to put on there. I had to do some outline stitching here as well, and then I had to cut them out. And then there they are, all sewed on. From here I had to move on to the little ghost that's going to be behind the front door. He is all sequined and satin stitched with applique the front and back, and there I am putting him behind his little door there. Next it was time to start the other characters, so I moved on to this pumpkin that required a lot of satin stitching. Now, if you don't like satin stitching, I'm going to tell you, Bucilla has a lot of it in their kits, so you gotta get good at it or learn to like it. Well, I don't know, one of the two. Both would be great. As you can see here, I am using 2 strands of floss. I come up from the top, and then I will put my needle down at the bottom of whatever I need to do a satin stitch on. The way you get good at satin stitching is you need to just practice, practice, practice. And at the end of the day, you gotta learn to like it. And there it is, all complete, my little pumpkin. And then I put the back on and the top of the stem. From here, it was time to move on to the 3 tombstones that I had to do. And I did the RIP portion of it first, and then I did some outline stitching around it along with some sequins. And then I cut them all out, appliqued them, and I just did them all together. And then it was time to do the little kitty cat. And I placed everything into a bag in order to keep it all together. Okay, time for a little bear break. So as you can see here, my husband and I were supposed to have a date night watching a movie, but there's the dog having a date night with my husband, looking like he's holding onto his arm. It's really not fair. But of course, we have good times together too. Here we are hanging out in my sewing room, and I'm enjoying all the little kissies he's giving me. So moving on, we have to work on the witch next. So you can see that this involves a lot of little pieces. I had to use the back in order to help me know where to put the front pieces together. And I had to stuff her when I was about finished putting her together. Next, I had to work on her broom. Involved some outline stitching, put 3 little sequins and beads on there, and then it was done. And then I had to attach it onto her. And she looked very cute. I next had to work on the pumpkin that she will be holding. It involved some satin stitching, and Little Bear let me put it on his nose before I finished it off. I had to measure out some cording, and then I attached it onto her right hand and placed her in the little bag with all the other characters that are going to go on this wall hanging. Next, it was time to work on the Frankenstein boy. As you can see, I had to start with his pants, get the rest of those little pieces attached to the front to create his body, and then I had to work on his face and just get him lined up with the back piece in order to know how everything was going to fit together correctly. And there he is, all finished with his little pumpkin basket. Okay, moving on to the little ghosts I had to put together. There was some satin stitching that was involved and some sequencing. And then I had to put together a few bats that had some French knots, also some sequins and some outline stitching. Finally were the cobwebs that will go on either side of the wall hanging, and I put everything in this little baggie so I could keep it all together. And of course, Little Bear was there with me throughout the entire time sleeping. So here I had to start the banner, and I did do an outline stitch for the haunted house portion of it, and decided to put Winchester for the personalization part. Now the real fun begins. Finally, after all of that sequencing and embroidery and appliquing and stuffing, it's time to put all of these pieces on this wall hanging and make it complete. Finally. So it was time to start with the cobwebs that go on either side. This is not what the instructions tell you to do, but for me I thought that made more sense to put them on first before putting on everything else. So here's one of the cobwebs I have to put on, and as you can see here, I'm just getting my thread all set up. I created the knot. From here, I basically just started doing an applique stitch to get this stitched on. It didn't require any kind of stuffing, and you guys have seen me do this stitch before, so I'm not going to make you watch the entire thing. So let's skip to the end here. So it's all appliqued together and it looks great. Okay, so the next step from here is to put on the banner, and I have to make sure this is all lined up so it looks straight, which can be kind of hard with felt because felt, it's not hard to stretch it. It will basically do what you want it to do with a little bit of convincing. But once I got in the right place, I started to pin it down, and I don't always pin everything that I sew when it comes to Bucilla kits, but with bigger pieces like this, it's a pretty good idea just to make sure things don't shift around, and you'll get really accurate piecing here for your kit. Okay, now it was time to applique this on. You can see that I was right in the middle of it. Again, it can be a little difficult to hold your projects sometimes, so just fiddle around with it. Don't be afraid to bend your felt in order to get a good hold of it so that you can really do your applique stitch appropriately and make it look as even as possible. And there it is all done, and it's straight. Yay, I did it right. Okay, so we're going to keep going with this, and again, this is the fun part where I get to just put all of these little characters on and make them look the way that I want them to look. As you'll notice, even though I am just placing them on there, I promise you I am stitching behind them in order to get them to stay. Some of them I'm going to put more stitches on than others depending on if I think it's going to fall off or not. The goal with this is how many stitches do you think is needed in order for it to last years and years to come. So my pieces are never just completely like loose. I usually have several stitches in order to hold them in place for a long period of time. And then you can see here I was putting on Frankenstein and the little witch and getting them lined up where it made sense where their feet should go, and also making sure that they weren't squishing each other or just doing something weird there. Another note about attaching pieces like this is that you want to use the same colored thread as the piece. So for the ghost, I would have ideally used white to attach it. I did not have enough thread in this kit to complete it. I had to go into past kits that I used and get extra thread in order to match my thread to my pieces here. And I read comments from other reviewers that that was their case as well with this kit. It just doesn't come with enough thread. So just keep that in mind when you start it, that you want to buy extra thread on all the colors because you will run out early on. I definitely did with almost every color. So there are all our bats attached, and that's every little character that I made that's attached on. So the next part of this is to get the little hanger on. So there are two hangers that need to be put on this kit, and I measured let's see here, 3/4 of an inch away from the edge, and then I moved it 3/4 of an inch down as well. And I did that for both sides. So you can see I was measuring there using my little ruler that I got from Shabby Fabrics as a gift from So Long that I'm doing right now. It's very handy. I actually really like it. And I pinned it down, made sure it was secure, and from here I just appliqued on. And again, I did my best to try and make it as straight as possible so that when it hangs, it's going to hang straight. So I did the same thing with the other side. And there they are, all perfect and ready to go. And now it's finally finished. And look how awesome that is. Oh, that is so cute for Halloween. I'm so happy I did this kit. And that's it. Let's do a little close-up again just so you guys can see the completed version of this. I have not put the back on, I'm sorry, so you can kind of see my stitches. But that's what it looks like. I guess if you are curious to see what my back looks like before I put anything on it, I can show you that too. It's kind of like being naked a little bit. But that's what the back of my stuff looks like. But that's the front. And like I said, I will show you guys what I am doing with the back of this project as well. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of my viewers. I can't wait to do another video for you, and I get to decide what we're going to do next, so it will be a little surprise for you all. Okay, have a great night, and thank you for watching Stitch and Bear Time. Bye!